this is what I got. Mr. Tuffy. I got the, it says 26 through 29 inches. Or these are way bigger than the tires, but they'll just wrap around more, or you can cut them off whatever way you want to do it. 4.1 to 5 inches. So these are the wide ones. So these will be plenty wide for those tires. I was over at the Super73 shop. I'm in Arizona, so that's a big deal for me, over in Irvine. And I went ahead and picked up a couple of spare tubes that they had there. And I'm going to look at the tubes that come off, and I'm going to see if these feel like they're any thicker or better. Then I'll go ahead and put these on too and use the other ones as spares. I'm going to try to tackle that project today. And oh, by the way, in case you're looking for a good lock, I love the Payweg chain. This one's a 12 millimeter. I've actually got a smaller 10 millimeter here as well. Both of them are extremely hard, harder than the bolt cutters themselves, the steel and the bolt cutters. I've got the RX burgundy model, and I absolutely love it. I think I've got something like 500 or 600 miles on it or something like that. Had it for 4 months, I think. And so far, I have not seen a video on how to remove these wheels and tires, but while I was at Super73, they gave me a little bit of instruction. So, disclaimer, do at your own risk. I may mess something up, but what I'm hoping is that in the process of doing this, I might be able to figure it out and do a nice little instructional video so that it may help others out as well. Unscrew the mirrors, and loosen them on both sides here. Okay, so I'm just going to lower them to a point where they're underneath the handlebars. A little bit easier than that. I think, yeah, that should be alright. Check it out when I turn it upside down and make sure. And then this one, move it out of the way. Should be good there. First one. Looks like there's some blue Loctite on. I'll make sure and put some Loctite on it again when I put it back on. Okay, I took a Sharpie and I put a little dot kind of somewhere around the center of that hole. I just want to make sure that it's somewhere in the vicinity. Okay, let me do this side. Well, you can tell there's some Loctite on these. All right, so here's the cable that needs to come off. You're gonna have to cut the zip tie. In that location. And that location. I'm actually going to snip this zip tie too because I can't quite see in there. Can't quite see what I'm doing here. Okay, so now I'll remove the cable. The two metal pieces will unscrew from each other, and that comes off real easily. Okay, brake caliper coming off. Okay, I'm taking this chain bolt off here. Should have done that first. I don't know if you can see that on the camera here, hopefully. But can get the chain off without removing that. This surface is a work area here. I don't know for sure how many I'll need. If just one. Go around the spoke to hold it in place. Okay, remove the tire all the way around. One side anyway. I'll take off the little inner nut at the valve stem. Take that little sucker off so that that will slip through a hole there. Remove the tube. These are V Tire Company, the new ones that I just bought from Super73 as spares, 20 by 4.55. And the stock. Straight with no kinks. No kinks in the tube. Alright, so I'm just trying to find, there's two little grooves there that these go in. Once you get it in the grooves, it kind of holds in place fairly decent. I haven't put any Loctite on this yet. For right now, I'm just trying to get this up in position, just to kind of hold things up in place. And I'm going to go find some blue Loctite. So, you know, like hypothetically, if I worked for the Loctite Corporation, I don't know, in whatever department that makes these, I would have this bright idea. I'm going to put the blue Loctite in a blue container and the red Loctite in a red container instead of the opposite. These are the kind of things that piss me off, man. So I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on there. That one's in a little bit. I'm going to take this one off. Put a little bit of blue. The holes look like they're actually in the same spot as they were when I took this off. I didn't get all this on videotape, putting the chain back on, because quite honestly I was messing with it for about 10 minutes. Not knowing exactly how it went back together. If you remember, when we took the chain off, I couldn't get the chain around the assembly because we didn't take the bolt off because there's nowhere for the bolt to slip through, remember? So we took these off. So I couldn't quite get the chain off, let me know if you can find a better way to do it. But I ended up taking this tension bar, whatever you call it, off. And to do that, I had to take this bolt off and even unscrewed this one with an Allen wrench up at the top. So when you do that, you lose the tension from this spring right here, and it just kind of popped off. You probably saw that on video, hopefully, how when I took this off, everything kind of lost tension, and then I got the chain out and got the wheel off. It's okay to take this off, and I guess I would probably do it unless you can figure out a better way to do it, like I was not able to. But just keep in mind that when you put this back together, you've got the spring goes around here, and for some reason this thing doesn't actually wrap around that bolt like I thought it should. I might take it apart and try to get it around there a little bit better, because something just seems wrong, the way it leans up against that, but it doesn't wrap underneath around, seems like it would be a better connection if it was under that bolt. However, let me look in the picture of what it looked like originally. Oh yeah, I can see it at the top of the picture actually. I don't know if that'll show up on there. This, where'd it go? I didn't quite get all of it in the picture. But right off the edge of the picture, you can see how this is not wrapped under my bolt, under this little Allen wrench screw right there. I guess it's either not important, or I don't know. We'll see how long it lasts, if it breaks or not. But that's the way it looks in the picture. It does not look like this goes underneath that. It's a tension spring. I don't guess it can't go anywhere. I'm assuming it won't go anywhere. It's in the groove here. There's a little groove underneath there. It just seems to me like it would wrap underneath that for real stability, but anyway, I'm messed in the head. That's normal. So, 2 points to make when you're putting the chain back on is, one of them, you can take a wrench like I did, and I just put it on here to hold tension on it while I'm putting this, but don't put too much because you could break something. On the picture I looked, this only needs to be here. You can crank it way down there, and real easy to do with a wrench too, and you might break the spring or break something else. So just easily, it's a lot easier to hold it this way instead of holding it with your hands while you're tightening this. That's the only reason I recommend putting the wrench on, is to hold it in place better. And the other thing to mention is this rod that gets put in here. Now I put some little etch marks all the way across the top, here, here, and here, to line up, where it was before. You don't have to do that, because when this is in the groove, and I got to explain something else to you too, by the way. Okay, first thing, I know this seems crazy, huh? I'm making it more difficult than what it is. This piece right here actually can be installed with all along this rod, and if you're all the way in, then this thing's going to sit all the way over here, and then you're crooked. So if you're too far out, then this is going to sit this way and you're crooked that way. So while you've got the wrench on it, just line everything up really straight, everything, and then tighten this nut up right here. This little bolt, it's a little bolt that goes through there. Tighten that bolt up when everything's straight and you've got tension on here. That's what I did. Now I'm going to, obviously, take it for a test ride afterwards. Let me. All right, so now, and of course the brake is on the wrong side. I'm going to have to try to reach over there and hold the brake on with one hand. And luckily I have really long arms. Holding the brake down should center it. Ah, much better. Now it's not dragging. so I'm going to take that off. We've got some kind of a bolt that looks like that. I'll take the same one off over here. Okay, I'm going to loosen these up. Oh, maybe I'll take them all the way out. I think I'm going to just go ahead and remove these all the way. I don't really know what to expect here. I don't know how loose it has to be. And probably ought to put some blue Loctite on these afterwards anyway. Okay, those are off. I believe I will take the brake caliper off as well. Some tape. Oh, you know what I forgot to do on the other side is zip tie that, connect that cable and zip tie it back down again. Completely forgot about that. We'll do that. All right, let's go back over here for a minute. Let's go back over here for a minute because I forgot, you know, a very important step here, obviously. And that is to reconnect this cable. And you can see it only goes on one way. There's 3 big pins on one side and about 5 little ones on the other. So it can only plug in one way and screws right on. And I'm gonna need some zip ties. You know, one thing about my zip ties is they really suck. For some reason, they're real brittle. If I go too tight with them, they just break. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on these and make sure they don't break or something. Makes sense. I don't want any sharp things. Any sharp things that might hurt my footsies. File that down, that's good. And one more. Right around here. Ooh, you know what? That thing when I clipped it, I swear, that thing when I clipped it just nailed me right here in the face, really, really hard. I mean, it felt like a bee sting for a second when I clipped that off. And can you imagine if that hit a little bit higher and I wasn't wearing my safety glasses? Ooh, it could have been bad. Wear your safety glasses, because you never know. All right, people are gonna think I'm weird, but you know, I am. So it's okay to think that, since I am. While I was out at Super73 in California a while ago, picking up the tubes and some other things, I spoke to Ryan, who was there at the time. He was very nice. I had actually emailed him before asking him a different question. And he explained to me that this actually pops out, pushes through somehow. It doesn't come out this way, it actually pushes through. So I am going to find something to see if I can tap that out of there and hope for the best. And thank you, Ryan, for the tip. It was super nice. He said to email him with any questions or call him, and he'd help any way he could. So it was very appreciated that he took the time to show me on a different bike how this was done. So let's try to get her done, see what happens. All right, so admittingly, I am a little hesitant in taking a hammer to my Super 73, but I don't know how else to try to do this, so I'm just looking for something that might work. And as I do that, I see something popping out the other end. Look at that. So that must be the secret. I'll have to go a little bit more to so whatever you can find. I just found a punch like this. Oh, look at that thing! Just pops right out of there. Oh, I guess I should have been more careful. Just a solid piece of metal that goes through there. It looks like it's the same on both sides. So there is the front. All right, let's move that bike out of the way. And we don't want to lay that on the brakes. So let's take this out. Really? There we go. Alright, that's good. Alright, let me take my little nut off the valve stem. Got out of a hole. Grab my new tube. Cap off. Take a little nut off the end. A little nut on. Okay, I put the Mr. Tuffy Tire in this one. I didn't film that, just to the edge. Alright, so when I was pushing that through, I was trying to hammer that through. I pushed this bearing out. Okay, I'm going to try this. While it's still separated from it, I tapped it out. Maybe I went too far. But I went ahead and tapped the axle through the bearing to where it at least made it through the bearing. And now I'll line it up with the hole best I can here. And it's a little low, so I'm gonna tap it down a little bit on the shop. There we go. Okay, so, push the axle through. I had trouble when I was pushing through this end. This shock wanted to raise up on its own, so it wasn't level. So when I was pushing the axle through, it was missing the hole by like a ½ inch. So I would tap it down and try to get it over, and I was popping the bearing out trying to tap it through. So what I did is, on purpose in front of the wheel, I tapped the axle all the way through to the end of the bearing, so it's not pushing the bearing out. So it's not pushing the bearing out. I tapped the axle through. I just kind of, with this loose, I pushed the axle through this way, and with this loose on the front, I tapped the axle just barely past the edge of that bearing, past the bearing, because I was having a problem popping that bearing off while I was trying to tap the axle through. So that helped to get the axle through the bearing before trying to go through this housing area. I was fighting with that a couple times. So that once I figured out, hey, I can't be popping that bearing out every time. And then I lined this up and everything worked a lot better at that point. Yeah, just gotta slow and easy. Don't hit the hammer too hard. If it doesn't go in easy, it's not ready to go in. It's not lined up. So just like soft taps, tap, tap, tap. And if it's lined up, it'll go in. I don't know if I showed this at the beginning of the video, but the lighting is really bad on this side. It's just these two bolts right here for the brake caliper to come off. Extremely easy, just pops right off. Putting the brake caliper back on, I'm just gonna hold it in place here, and I'm gonna lock the brake pads in place with the brake lever so that they're centered and where they're supposed to be. And I'll snug these down. So that should be centered. Spinning freely. Looks pretty good. Alrighty. I'm going to put some air in the tires. How much air do you put in your Super 73 air pressure? I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Hey, idiot. How come you're not just looking at the gauge? On your air compressor here, air compressor hose. Ooh, there's that. Something snapping in there. I guess something had a little crease or something. That is about 27. I'll just go with that, I guess. I had 25 in there before. Ooh, 30 in that. Take a little bit out. All right, 27 in both of them. All right, that's it. Mr. Tuffy liners are installed. So, weird thing about it. So here's the deal. I just know me and my luck. I had this bike for 4 months and didn't have a flat tire yet. And I go to all this trouble, not a lot of trouble, it took me a couple hours or so. But I go to all this work to put Mr. Tuffy liners in. and I'll probably get a flat tire tonight. But we'll see how long these last before I get a flat. I just wanted to do this just for some extra protection before this winter hits and I start taking my bike out a lot. I know that sounds odd. I'm in Arizona, so we look forward to the winter time so we can ride our bikes. So starting to get, it's 101 today. Starting to get where we can do some things outside. I'm sweating already. It's too hot to work in my garage for very long at 101, but it's better than 120. So here in another month or so, we'll be able to ride that bike a little bit more. Anyway, hope someone learned something and give me some feedback if you know of a better way to do it. I fought with it a little bit, should have wore gloves. First time doing things takes longer. I could do it again in half the time, but I hope I don't have to do it again. Over and out. Take care all. Ride safe.